When most players spawn in, they typically stay in the bottom portion of the map. Some may get gutsy and explore Louisville, but outside of this area, there isn't much else for players to visit. But far beyond rural Kentucky, and to the east of the massive city, there is a location most Zomboid players never visit, either due to the impracticality of traveling there, or it simply being unknown. But before we get to this, only 0.3% of people who watch my content are subscribed to the channel, so if you happen to enjoy Zomboid content, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and help out the channel. Thank you. To get to this location, we have to travel up to Louisville and head up to the top eastern corner of the city. You then follow the riverbank for what feels like an eternity, or you drive with a car, but eventually you will arrive at one of the many secret locations on the map. There are two ways to enter this fort, either through the doors on the north end or the gates on the south end. Unfortunately, the doors on the north end appear to stay locked, so the southern gates are the only way to get in. Also on the south end is a small structure with a ham radio and a couple of rooms. It seems like it's a visitor center or an office, but I'm not entirely sure as to what it's supposed to be. Upon entering the fort, you'll find a large grassy courtyard furnished with a couple troughs on the northern end. You can enter the walls of the fort on either the west or east sides, and you won't find much throughout the hallways. The north end has two dining rooms. One is furnished with antique ovens, and the other has a wonderful fireplace. Next to both dining rooms are some prison cells and barred windows that look into the entrance. Each southern corner appears to have a barracks. Both of these also lead to barred windows that have a similar setup to the north end. Another thing you may notice are the multiple stairways scattered throughout the fort. These allow for roof access, which you can use to patrol the perimeter. Much like other players who discovered this location, I have no clue what this is supposed to be, or why it's so far out from the other locations on the map. Some have speculated that this is the initial design of Fort Knox, which will be polished and moved to the south end of the map next to March Ridge. Others have said that this is supposed to represent Fort Boonesborough, which is outside of Lexington, Kentucky in real life. Some have also said that this just may be where the devs' testing area is, which would make sense given that there are the troughs, a stone oven, an anvil, and many other things that were added to Build 42. In its current stage, this fort would make for an awesome late-stage base that's close enough to Louisville for looting runs, assuming you have a car by this point. When multiplayer comes to Build 42, it would make for a great place to roleplay rebuilding society, given that there is a large empty space to build outside of it, a nearby water supply, and also a nearby forest. In Build 41, a Redditor had mentioned they used this as a base of operations for a multiplayer server, but outside of that, most players have just written it off as another neat location. What would you do with this fort? Would you make the trek to visit it, or is it just not worth the effort? Please let me know below.